Hey, my name's Bex and today I'm going to be doing some book shout outs, talking about some of my fantastical faves that I have enjoyed recently. Yeah, there were just a few books which I've read and I was like, I'd like to talk about these. I'd like to put them a bit on a spotlight. So I'm going to kind of start with the most popular book, which probably most people have read, and then a book which maybe some people have read, and then a book which is really underrated. So I'm going to go in that type of order, if that makes sense. Yay. Okay, so the more popular choice which I want to chat about is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I buddy read this with Wendy and Amanda from Bookstagram, so I'll leave their, I was about to say channels, accounts, profiles? I don't know, account. I think it's account. I'll leave their accounts and their usernames in the description box. Most people know what this is about, but I've only just read it. We follow Kel, who's a magician, also known as an Antari, which is basically like his blood is magical. So he sort of has to like make a cut in his hand, and if he paints like a symbol on a wall, he can travel different places. He is one of two people, two Antares, who can travel across various Londons. So there's the London which kind of as we can imagine it, but in the 19th century, I think. And then there's like a black London which has been overcome by magic and no one can go there, it's like unsafe. There's White London, there's two twins which rule it who are evil. And let me tell you, I love twins in books as a twin myself. It's a trope, it's a thing that I really enjoy. So I was pleasantly surprised that there were like evil twins in this. I loved them, to be fair. They were just so bad, you know, but in like a good to read about way. And then there's also Red London where they're magical but they're happy. Essentially what happens is a artifact from Black London arrives in Kel's grasp, and he realizes that if this artifact, this stone, fell in the wrong people's hands, then the world is going to be like over. Evil people are going to take over and lots of people are going to die. It's going to be just chaos. We also follow the other Antari, Holland, and he is like really powerful, but he's enslaved to these two evil twins who run White London. I really liked that element of it. I gave this a 4 stars because I wasn't like, this is the best book ever, but I really enjoyed it and I'm excited to continue with this series. Moving on to the next book, but before I do, I just want to make clear, like, if there's any trigger warnings or content warnings in any of these books, I'm going to do my best to leave them all in the description. Just like on all my videos, that's what I'm going to try and do. If ever I mention a book, any warnings like that should be in the description so you can check them out if need be. So the next fantastical fave, which I want to put on the spotlight, give it a shout out, is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This is the first book that I read in 2021 and I was like, oof, we're starting good. Let me show you this without the cover. It spells piranesi with the columns, which is really grand because there's lots of columns in the book. And also these are the end pages, which is so pretty. So Susanna Clarke is famous for Dr. Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is like an award-winning like 900-page book or something ridiculous, which is hilarious because this is under 300 pages. I've not read her other book, but I know that like the hype for this next release was just so real because Susanna had never come out with another book. I just picked this up from the bookshop and really didn't know much about it, which I definitely recommend. Like, I'll tell you a bit of the basic plot, but yeah, I think go into it not really knowing what it's going to be, just that I recommend it. I think it's so good. We follow Piranesi, who lives in this house. Now, it's not a house in a typical sense. This house is like infinite. Our one character has been there for years and he's still not travelled down all of the corridors. He's not visited all of the rooms. It's so expansive. More than that, it's not just corridors and rooms, but the bottom level of the house is the sea. You know, it comes in a tide. it has fish in it, and then when you go to the highest level of the house, that's like the skies, it's like open air, rain can come down through it, and in all of the rooms there's like these columns with statues on. And our character Piranesi is basically sort of an explorer of the house. He keeps a journal where he records his day and everything he discovers, and that's how the story starts. We're following his journal entries. It can be quite jarring when you start reading this book in terms of Susanna like just drops you in, so you don't really know what's going on. You're just reading his diary entries like, I don't know what that means, but just sit tight. Everything will slowly explain itself. It's so satisfying the way you just really gradually learn more and more. I just thought this setting was just so magical. Like, I definitely recommend it to fans of like the Starless Sea. Not in terms of plot, but like in terms of that sort of setting, it's wondrous. Where Piranesi's journey really kicks off is when he discovers that there's another person in the house, and he doesn't know whether this person is a good person or a bad person. To him, the world only consists of him and this other guy who does like experiments. Like, he thinks there's only 2 people in the whole universe, so suddenly when another person is on the scene, it's just like life altering. I do want to say that the ending is really freaking cool, and I can't tell you anything more about it, but just trust me. 5 stars. Lastly, onto what I think is the most underrated book on my list. I really want more people to read this quirky story, and it is Braised Pork by Anne Yu. I talk about this more in my last video, which is like a reading vlog, so definitely check that out where I read some more books as well. But this is a magical realism domestic noir following a woman called Gia, who really unexpectedly walks into her husband dead in the bathroom, and no one knows how he died. All that he's left behind is a drawing of a fish man. It's like a man's face with the body of a fish, and Gia is just like, what the heck is this? So we follow her as she tries to live her life without her husband, when that's really the only life she knows living in Beijing, and also as she tries to sort of discover this mystery, like, is this fish man relevant? Is it important? Is it real? What is it? The writing in this is so gorgeous, so beautiful. It really just flows, and I'd recommend it to anyone who's sort of interested in like a Beijing city setting, because that really comes through. To anyone interested in the magical realism genre, which just has that quirkiness, that unexpected nature, and the relationships and the characters in this are just really strong. I did tap this, really enjoyed it. So that's it. Those were the 3 book shout outs I wanted to give of some fantastical faves that I've read recently. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you have any fantastical faves to recommend me. Please do, especially if it's magical realism. It's my favourite genre, it's my favourite thing. So yes, that's going to wrap up the video. Hope you're well. I'll see you soon.